Titan OLED battle. 83-inch LG G4 versus 77-inch Samsung S95D. Up next.
I've seen things people wouldn't believe.
Hey, what's up guys? I'm Brian. This is Tech Therapy. Thank you so much for joining me as we match up the 83-inch LG G4 MLA OLED versus the 77-inch Samsung S95D third generation QD-OLED. Now we do have different sizes, 83 versus 77, simply because I didn't have a 77-inch on hand as we were filming a few weeks ago at Value Electronics. But I love this matchup for different reasons. The G4 is brighter than ever. The Samsung S95D has a third gen QD-OLED versus last year's second gen. What sets them apart is a new processor also on the LG G4 and the matte finish or anti-reflective coating of the S95D. It does make for a very interesting matchup. Now, I've spent a lot of time with the S95D and its matte screen or anti-glare or anti-reflective screen. I actually don't mind it at all. It has been knocked in a bright room. I've shown that versus the A95L in a bright room and other TVs. It also has been criticized in a dark room. All of this comparison will be shot in a dark room today, showing that it doesn't really suffer from any real lifted blacks. It looks like the G4 in many of these shots. They are both extremely bright. They're both absolutely gorgeous. Without further ado, let's check out the 83-inch LG G4 versus the Samsung S95D QD-OLED. Thank you so much for watching. All right, guys, let's do it. 83-inch LG G4 with MLA on the left. Samsung 75-inch S95D QD-OLED third generation. Last year's G3 did not have MLA at 83 inches. QD-OLEDs do max out at 77 inches. The differences in color you've seen on camera thus far, if the S95D is pushing a little bit pink, is simply because the camera sensor does do that with these two different panels, where QD-OLEDs do appear a little pink in white scenes, which is why you'll see less of those scenes in this video. What you will see throughout the video is there is a difference in brightness back and forth because of the tone mapping, how these displays handle the image. You will see them brighter than one another in certain shots. Now, I will tell you that throughout this entire video, there is only really one shot where they're in a mode such as filmmaker, where they're in their most accurate preset. just one shot. I want the rest of this to show you the differences in their specular highlights and their impact. Though I like filmmaker mode and professional mode from Sony and those accurate presets, they've been done to death. This is the first video where you're going to see two heavyweight division OLEDs that are QD-OLED versus MLA, and I want to flex them. I want to show you the differences in terms of their peak brightness and the punch that they have. To me, that is their strengths. I see no value in making them all look the same. That said, preset modes are matched. If you'll see standard in one, you'll see standard in the other. If you'll see dynamic tone mapping enabled, you will see active tone mapping enabled for the Samsung. So matching them per preset, you're seeing in that scene there, the S95D is a little pink due to the camera, but I love this scene. Now, both of these are absolutely amazing. The G4 at 83 inches almost looks smaller in some shots as it's on a table a little bit lower. Now, the S95D, as we've talked about in the intro, the matte screen is not something I was a fan of. I've been strongly against matte screens. However, I do understand the concept and where it excels. It actually does very well in a bright room as long as the sun isn't hitting the screen, where it will turn basically white. However, I wouldn't say any TV within the store looks good with direct sunlight hitting a screen either. So I've grown to like it. I've grown to understand its purpose and use case. Are the blacks not as deep as the G4? That is the question you're going to have within this video. And the answer is not really. They look equal in a very dark room. And ironically enough, the S95D is an excellent dark room OLED. A dark room TV is its greatest strength. Its second greatest strength is being in a room with moderate ambient light, meaning lamps behind you. Those will literally be invisible. But in a very dark room, the blacks do not seem lifted at all. They're not milky, they're not hazy. I've spent time with every size that there is for the S95D, as well as the S95B and C. Quickly to the G4 is an absolute monster this year, brighter than last year's G3, more customizing in regards to its tone mapping. Alpha 11 processing, more detailed, and it's literally, and I should say it's been more detailed in every shot. There's just a little something extra as far as its detail. Now, in this comparison you're seeing here, I did this with my partner in crime, Stop the Phone, while we did 3 TVs. The 900D is actually on the right. Even though it's 8K and has the new upscaling ability of Samsung, the G4 always seemed to be a bit more detailed, not just because of the Alpha 11, but the Alpha 11 in tandem with micro contrast of an OLED, especially one as bright as the G4. Now, where are the trade-offs? The G4's coating is also pretty good at anti-reflection. It looks good in a bright room. My G4 review of the 83-inch looked amazing in this same room with all kinds of sunlight. Yes, there was reflections, but it handled it very well. They both look absolutely stunning. Now, in a lot of the shots where the G4 is brighter, it's hard to tell on camera. There are several instances where the S95D was brighter in certain areas. It's all where the display picks and chooses what it wants to showcase. That's why I want to be outside of the most accurate presets. Filmmaker mode, custom, things of that nature all look the same and to me look rather dull. While they're accurate, they don't really flex the ability of both. I had the S95D go against the A95L Sony Master Series QD-OLED. In Filmmaker and in Professional, they were identical. Once I took it out of that preset, you could see the 3rd gen Quantum Dot OLED pull away. Now, whether it was accurate or not isn't really what we're discussing. We're talking about headroom, the ability to change the image, and the S95D is far better. The 3rd generation Samsung display panel is much better than the 2nd gen. The G4 is brighter than last year's G3 and is more detailed, and here they are neck and neck. Now, in regards to trade-offs, quickly before we go into more of this conversation, is again, the presets are matched. I won't say what they are throughout the video, but for a lot of it, we're going to be in standard and then in the movie presets to match them. If they were close in brightness, that's where I kept them. I will show you one scene where I jump into their more accurate filmmaker mode presets. And they actually both look pretty good this year as far as punchiness, even in filmmaker. But where is the give and take and the strengths and weaknesses of both? Screen uniformity to me is the biggest differences between the two. And real quick before I get into that, I want to show you a quick shot of them both being in filmmaker mode. And they look identical. Now, screen uniformity, as we mentioned before, this is kind of the tragedy of the S95D being matte. For many of you, it's not going to be your cup of tea, and I completely understand. It took me many, many hours to understand its use case and to accept it. And I can't even tell you then that I would actually purchase it. However, I do understand. What I will tell you is quantum dot OLEDs, all the ones that I have seen in person, from 55, 65 to 77, the screen uniformity is excellent unless you're dealing with a display that is faulty or defective. I cannot say that for the majority of the WRGB OLEDs that I have personally and I have seen out in the wild. There is some color banding and there is some vertical banding in the 12 to 15% gray that you would see in content. That is still here to some degree, though the G4 this year is the cleanest G series I have seen since they introduced the Evo panels a number of years ago. The pink tint that would basically plague the G series is not something that I noticed. Now, I didn't put up pure white screens and look off angle for it, but what you would see being a consumer watching your own TV, I did not notice it or see it to be a problem on any of the G series that I've spent time with. Now, this demo here is actually SDR, and though the colors do appear different, you can see which is brighter in some cases. You'll see where the camera is clipping, but they choose which to make brighter in which scene. They do look different. That's why I wander out of those other presets. For me, the G4 is more detailed, even at 83 inches. You see here where the sun is brighter on the S95D. Now, even though they are both OLEDs, the G4 at 83 is more detailed, fine detail, which shouldn't be the case considering it's larger. The smaller 77-inch should yield a cleaner picture. It actually doesn't. It's got nothing to do with the matte screen. It's the processing from LG. Where the S95D, just for the nature of the quantum dot OLED, has more color. There are several times, even in the comparison we did with all three TVs, where both the 8K QN at 900D and the S95D just had more colors that just aren't available on the WRGB OLED. Does it show up in every scene? It does not. It only shows up if that scene calls for it. So in a lot of content, you may not see it. However, to me, quantum dot OLEDs are definitely a step up in terms of OLED technology. Now, the G4 has micro lens array technology. It does push the whites brighter. However, it's not limited to that. That is a simplistic way of describing it. There is more color involved. And in some cases, between those three TVs, the G4 looked like it was more colorful. Now, was it accurate? I don't know. We did have it in Filmmaker a good majority of the time during our live stream, which was 7.5 hours. What I love about Samsung and LG going after it is they are both, in my opinion, equal in terms of gaming. I do find the Samsung game bar to have more options in terms of presets and flexibility of image. LG, same thing. You can make the image look pretty close to any way you want, but Samsung, you can really go very accurate, and then you can go in and make it very cartoony. Having that ability is something that gives it the slight edge for me. 144 Hz 4K gaming on both. No dropouts thus far reported on the S95D. The S95C did have several dropouts that were reported to the point where we actually stopped recommending it for gaming. If you had issues, simply bring it back. Full bandwidth, HDMI 2.1 ports, you have 4 of them. They both look absolutely amazing. It didn't matter what the conditions were. They leapt off the screen. Now, the QN900D Neo QLED was 75 inches. Why is that important? It needs to be larger to compare or even compete. If these were all 65, it wouldn't have been close, but the 75 being smaller than the others definitely put it at a disadvantage. So I would recommend, if you're going to compare OLEDs, definitely go larger with your LEDs to give it a shot. And that TV is absolutely gorgeous. But the micro contrast of these OLEDs, both the micro lens array LG G4 and the QD-OLED Samsung S95D, the micro contrast mixed with this higher peak brightness and color volume is unstoppable. Now for me, I've said this publicly many times, the TV that I would choose to buy right at this moment is the 83-inch LG G4. Almost by default. To me, it's that good. New processor, super bright, gaming features, very flexible in terms of its image, accurate out of the box, but also, again, flexibility of image. You can make it look any way you like. Dolby Vision, HDIG, Dolby Vision Filmmaker Mode. If you need that, LG is your go-to, though I don't think Dolby Vision is a make-or-break proposition anymore. Samsung's HDR10 Plus to me is equal to it. I'm actually not a fan of either in some cases, though they both have the best implementation of both. LG, best implementation out there for Dolby Vision. Samsung, best implementation of HDR10 Plus. So for me, if you need one or the other, you know where to go. However, the limitation of the sizes involved is what really hurts Samsung here. Two ways. One, you don't have a large enough display to compete with the G4, so by default, the G4 83 actually wins. The 77-inch is not better in any which way that would make you choose it over the 83 unless you're looking to save money, and if that's the case, just drop down to the 77-inch G4 and then they are equal. The matte screen, unless that is your specific use case. If you're somebody that likes watching TV, not just in a dark room, but one with lamps, which is most of you, the anti-reflective screen is groundbreaking. It literally disappears. You can see no reflections at all. You can game, you can stand in front of it. You will not see yourself. So if you look for that and you need that, it is a must buy, and it does exactly what it's supposed to. To really see it in action, go check it out in a Best Buy and see how that screen performs underneath those lights. Now, special thanks to our good friends at Value Electronics. Please consider making your next AV purchase through them. Check the description below for all their information. Let them know that Brian at Brian's Tech Therapy sent you. There are discounts available for both panels if you say that you found them through me. Special thank you to them, because being able to film these two monsters as well as the 8K 900D QN900D is actually amazing. And I'm so happy to be able to bring this to you. So thank you to Robert and Wendy. Now, for those of you waiting for what's next, what is it that you're focused on? Is it the Bravia 9? Is it TCL's lineup or Hisense's lineup? I do have the Hisense displays. I'll be going through the whole lineup this year like I did last year. But for me, last year, the G3 and the S95C literally came out on fire, and then they kind of faded away because the A95L was off in the distance. That isn't the case this year. So if you want an OLED other than the Bravia 8, which will be a bit brighter than last year's A80L, it will still have XR Clear. I think it'll be a bit better than last year's A80L. These are the two stars, because the A80L is there still. Where I do feel that the S95D is a good deal better than last year's S95C. I also do think that the S95D is a good deal better than this year's S90D, where last year's S95C and S90D, or 90C I should say, were very close. Where if you didn't want the S95C because of dropouts and such, the S90C got you all the way there or close to all the way there. Not the case this year. The S95D to me is a good deal better. Now, I'm not walking you through these shots as you guys can see them for yourself. The blacks are not lifted. One instance where you will see a difference, and this is if you get really, really close in that star field, you will look like, or at least feel like, you see a bit of blooming. It will look like there's a little bit of an extra light there. As you step away, the stars will sparkle, but if you get your face right to the screen, it does look a little bit like an LED. But you have to be right up on the screen. If you step back just 2 feet, they sparkle like regular OLEDs. So other than that one instance, I didn't find the matte screen to be a problem, other than an annoyance when you're standing next to it and you look at it and it's off. And if you don't love that aesthetic, you never will. However, it doesn't look like a regular matte screen. It is so dark, it looks like a felt, which I actually don't mind. It does look very premium versus matte screens of the past that look very cheap. Now, all honesty, if the S95D was 83 inches, there would be a conversation for me to really spend time with the two of them and choose which one I like best. To put a finer point on it, if both of these are 77 inches, it would come down to the operating system, the remote, which you prefer. Special thanks to the amazing Jennifer Gala for all the amazing content that you see within this video. A good amount of this content is Jen's, so thank you to her and her second channel, HDR SUPER CHANNEL. Much love to Jen. This is her content you're watching right now. She's unreal. Check the description below for her links and consider becoming a Patreon where you can download this material in Atmos and Dolby Vision. So 22 minutes in, what do you guys think? Special love and shout out to all of you watching this live with me, the premieres that we watch in the community. I love you guys very much, and I appreciate all you do to enrich my life and for giving me this platform to express myself. I think they're both stunning. Nothing in terms of picture quality would make me choose one or the other than the G4 to me being a bit more detailed due to the processor. Is that fine detail noticeable from a good distance away? Probably not. But I'll give the edge to the G4 overall for that reason. However, the use case of wanting either HDR 10 Plus or the matte screen would definitely make the Samsung the choice. So it's actually easy to choose between the two. What you like and don't like is tangible. For me, I would go with the LG G4, even if they were the same size, just by a little bit. I do like the glossy screens myself. But I do enjoy now and understand the S95D's matte screen. So in closing, this has been an amazing year so far. But as far as the best OLEDs in the world, this is as good as it's going to get. The Bravia 8 should be very good. You'll see it go against these TVs as soon as it releases. But I expect these to be the two top dogs. Please let me know what you think in the comments. No comment is too long or too detailed. I'm Brian. This is Tech Therapy. Please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful day. Love you guys. Take care.
It's better to burn out than to fade away. I belong to nobody!